This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. I'm often asked to compare the VacDaddy with the bottom feeder. Which one would I get over the other? So I'm going to do kind of a versus comparison video. Now these products are a little bit different than each other. So it's not a really comparison straight line like the Hammerhead and Riptide. These are different products in different categories. But you get an idea as I go through the podcast of the features of each and how they compare to each other. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy coaching program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. And right off the top, the VacDaddy is probably more comparable in look to the WaterTech larger vacuum-powered systems like the Precision version 10 or the Pool Blaster Pro 2000. It has a very similar look to it with a bag that goes inside there that traps the dirt and debris. And this one's a little bit different because the VacDaddy actually clamps onto your pole. Now you can buy a small pole adapter on their site. The reason why the VacDaddy doesn't have a pole connector directly on back of it is because WaterTech holds that patent and they're really adamant about enforcing their patents, and so VacDaddy had to get this kind of clamp system, and you can bypass kind of taking it on and off your pole by buying a small pole section. Now the bottom feeder is more comparable to say the Riptide or Hammerhead because it is a vacuum system. However, it is a cordless vacuum system. So the first thing you're going to notice between the VacDaddy and the bottom feeder is that the VacDaddy needs to be plugged in to a 100-volt outlet and 110-volt outlet. And the bottom feeder has the LiPo battery directly on the actual pole adapter or the portability kit itself. So that's one difference. One plugs in, one doesn't. Although the bottom feeder is coming out with a cord that you can plug into it and plug into an outlet or connect to a marine battery at the pool site. If you maybe have a gigantic pool and you want to plug it in, the bottom feeder will have that capacity in the very near future. So the VacDaddy does have a semi-cordless configuration because there are no hoses in the pool unless you're using the vac to waste adapter, which I'll cover in a minute here. But basically, the bottom feeder is fully cordless. It is more comparable to, again, the vacuum systems like the Riptide and Hammerhead, and not as comparable to the WaterTech devices per se, unless you're thinking about the battery-powered or the rechargeable circular WaterTech leaf vacs, which really don't have any comparison in power to the bottom feeder. Now, the weight on the pole, well, the VacDaddy kind of sits on the pole itself or clamps on there. So it's kind of a totally different feel actually than the bottom feeder. I wouldn't say the bottom feeder is heavier while you're pushing on the bottom of the pool. It's just a different feel to it. And it takes a little bit of getting used to the VacDaddy on the pole. As far as suction power, the VacDaddy pumps about 50 gallons per minute. So it's much more powerful. If you're going to compare the thrust motor to the motor on the back of the VacDaddy is much more like your manual vacuum connected to your pool filtration system as far as power, where the bottom feeder has an 18-pound thrust motor. So they're totally different as far as power, because the way the bottom feeder works is it pulls the debris into the bottom of it with that propeller, and the VacDaddy actually sucks everything into the VacDaddy with that powerful motor on the back of it. Now, the limitation with that motor being on the back of the VacDaddy is how shallow you can vacuum. So the VacDaddy has to be submerged in water. I would say you would probably want about 18 inches of water for the VacDaddy, unless you're holding it at a really strong angle. And there's also an adapter you can get the vacuum in even shallow water up to 8 inches. But typically, if you're going to just use the device, normally without that special adapter, maybe about 14 to 18 inches of water what I would suggest. Whereas the bottom feeder, since it has the propeller on the bottom, you only need 3 inches of water to vacuum. So, of course, the bottom feeder can vacuum shallower water than the VacDaddy, just because of the way the VacDaddy is designed with the motor on the back, almost like the WaterTech portable vacuum or the vacuum systems that the WaterTech has, like the Precision version 10, as I mentioned earlier. Runtime, of course, the VacDaddy is unlimited. Basically, you plug it in and you can just continue to use it without having to worry about charging it. The bottom feeder battery lasts about an hour and a half, and they do have a special deal where you can buy actually 2 batteries with it and save $200. And if you use my discount code DVB100, you save another $100. So you can get a bottom feeder with 2 batteries and save $300, which is a pretty good deal. And then you can swap out the batteries if you need longer runtime. You can also recharge the VacDaddy, the bottom feeder batteries in your truck between stops. If you have the plug that goes into your vehicle, the inverter plug, that you can plug it in while you're driving. As far as debris capacity, well, the bottom feeder has regular vacuum system bags, basically. So it's designed primarily for larger leaf debris in pools with a lot of leaf debris, I should say. Not necessarily large leaf debris, but larger leaf debris. And so if the pool, of course, is covered in leaf debris, the bottom feeder would be highly effective because of the larger opening on the bottom and the larger bags that pick up leaf debris. So they're actually designed for different purposes, really. And I mentioned at the beginning, they're just not the same machines and are different categories. But people do compare them because they are similar in price point, and they look like they almost do the same job, but they don't quite do the same job. Now, if the pool has lighter leaf debris, of course the VacDaddy would be perfectly suitable for that. But larger leaf debris, or a large amount of leaves, I should be saying, then the bottom feeder definitely would be where you would be leaning towards over the VacDaddy, because the VacDaddy uses a manual vacuum head, and so whatever would clog up your standard vacuum head will get clogged up using the VacDaddy. So it's not designed for pools that are pretty much trash with leaf debris, where the bottom feeder is more or less designed for that. And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. Now, as far as speed of use, the bottom feeder is a little faster when you're using it. You basically just turn it on. And by the way, they're getting a new switch, so that's going to make this much better and more improved. And you just drop the bottom feeder in anywhere in the pool after you turn it on. The VacDaddy, you're going to have to plug it in. If you don't have the small pole adapter, you have to put the VacDaddy on your pole. So, of course, the bottom feeder is faster to drop into the pool. But on the bottom of the pool, they work about the same pace, going back and forth across the bottom of the pool. So the main thing, I think, is the VacDaddy has a little more setup, because you have to plug it in, whereas the bottom feeder, you just drop it in there. As far as maneuverability, now the VacDaddy, they prefer using a non-swivel vacuum head. This is because it'll move around too much on the swivel, and the bottom feeder does have a swivel, and it moves around nicely on the bottom of the pool. I would say the VacDaddy without the swivel isn't a major drawback as far as maneuverability, and they operate a little bit different. I mentioned the VacDaddy sits on your pole, and has a vacuum head on the floor where the bottom feeder rolls on the floor of the pool. So you really can't compare the way they operate on the floor bottom exactly. They're just two different types of machines. As far as maintenance, the bottom feeder, you just take the bag off, empty it, and rinse it off. VacDaddy, you just take the bags out of the VacDaddy, and then you rinse them off with a hose. Now, the bag capacity is not as large. They're just because they're internal. And if you go on their website, you'll see the bags. They're probably similar in size to the WaterTech bags for their Precision version 10, maybe a little bigger. The mesh bag will filter down to 75 microns, and the standard bag for the bottom feeder is a 100 micron bag. So you're getting just about the same amount of fine dirt out with the bottom feeder as with the VacDaddy, although the bottom feeder does have a 57 micron bag as well. Now, there's one thing that really separates the VacDaddy from the bottom feeder, and this is one reason why I probably would recommend you getting both of these devices, because they're different in different categories. And the thing that I like about the VacDaddy is their vacuum to waste adapter. And this is something I always thought when I first got the machine a few years ago, that this is something they should have came out with first. It would have been something that they should have thought of, or maybe they were thinking of it, but they just didn't have a way to implement it. But there's a diffuser on the back that is used on it to diffuse the water when it's coming out. And the standard diffuser just shoots the water back into the pool, much again like the WaterTech device. But with the vacuum to waste adapter, instead of the water being diffused back into the pool, it acts as a way to connect a manual vacuum hose to it, and you can actually vacuum the waste. So it's a pretty ingenious way to use this to vacuum a pool to waste. And I think this is, of course, the edge it has over the vacuum systems, is that if you're in an area where there's a lot of dirt in the pool all the time, and you have cartridge filters without a multi-port valve, then the vacuum the waste mode on the VacDaddy is a bonus and a definite must-have in those areas. And so you can actually literally use this to vacuum the pool to waste as if you had a portable pump on the deck, but it's attached to your pool pole and you're moving it back and forth underwater. So that's something that I think is highly effective and something that really changed the sales of the VacDaddy, I think, because before you were limited to cleaning a pool very similar to the WaterTech devices, the larger vacuums, but with much more power, because the WaterTech Precision version 10 pumps about 25 to 30 gallons a minute, whereas the VacDaddy does like 50 plus gallons, and the power is pretty amazing on the VacDaddy. If you used one before, you know what I'm talking about. It has quite a lot of power, and I think that with the vacuum to waste adapter, it is a whole new category of cleaner, and it really separates itself from the vacuum systems with that particular device on there. I guess you can kind of sum it up by saying the VacDaddy is made for pools with light leaf debris and more dirt, and it's also made for pools with a lot of dirt to use as a kind of portable cleanup pump in that situation, where the bottom feeder is used mainly as a vacuum system to get leaf debris off the bottom of the pool and some dirt down to 57 microns if you're going to use that 57 micron bag. Another reason why a lot of people compare these two together, or kind of are thinking they're something that you can compare, and again, I think you can see that they're different categories entirely, is a price point. So the price point, is somewhere within range of each other, with the bottom feeder at $1,600, the VacDaddy anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800, depending on the bundle you get with it in a different configuration. And I would say that this is one reason why they're comparable, and they look kind of the same in size, I guess. Probably totally different look to them, but people kind of get the idea looking at them that they're small, portable machines to clean a pool. And so that, I think that's another reason why they look like they're comparable with each other. Which one would I recommend you purchase? Well, they're both reviewed really well out there by the pool pros, and there are pros and cons of each of these units. Again, the bottom feeder is technically not made to vacuum a pool to waste. That can't be done, and so you can't use it as a waste pump like the VacDaddy. The bottom feeder does have a higher capacity bag for leaf debris. The VacDaddy is much more like a manual vacuum, where you're vacuuming out dirt and leaf debris on the bottom of the pool. And again, you have to plug in the VacDaddy. The bottom feeder is cordless with the battery on back, and so really you can't compare them and make a decision on which to purchase based on looking at the features, you would have to decide on the usage that you're going to need it for in your pool route. If your pool route has a lot of leaf debris, or you want to spot vacuum pools with automatic cleaners, if you have suction cleaners in all your accounts, like I recommend you should have automatic cleaners in your accounts, then the bottom feeder is probably more apt to just spot vac a pool. The VacDaddy is made more to vacuum an entire pool and to vacuum it much like a manual vacuum, except it doesn't go into the filtration system. And you have the really versatile ability to use the vacuum to waste adapter on the back to do cleanups for your pool, do cleanups on your pool route. So if you were thinking of getting a portable cleanup pump or making one so that you can vacuum pools to waste on your route, then of course the VacDaddy would be really appealing to you. If you're looking at the PortaVac, which is a great portable filtration system, but you didn't really want the kind of bulky thing to bring back there, which by the way, the PortaVac is extremely powerful and well made, and it's a great portable filtration system, but it's like comparing a monster truck with like a Datsun pickup truck. It's totally different in size, and the performance of VacDaddy, you'll be surprised at the power in this vacuum to waste mode. So definitely, if you're looking at that, the VacDaddy is something to look at as well. And if you're looking for something to complement your pool route with, a Riptide and something you want to use in between, that you don't want to bring out the full Riptide system when the pool doesn't have tons of debris, then the bottom feeder is perfect for you as well. So again, I would say it's dependent on what you need it for. If it's primarily for large amounts of leaf debris on the bottom of the pool, bottom feeder is definitely a better choice. If it's for something that's versatile, that you want to vacuum out some leaf debris and dirt, then also have the vacuum to waste option, you can definitely get the VacDaddy. I would say I wouldn't limit myself to either or in this case, because again, if you've listened to this thing in its entirety, they are two different categories of cleaning tools, and there's some crossover, but not a lot of crossover in my opinion. Not enough to say that one can be used in place of the other. I would say having both would be a great option. If you're looking for portable vacuuming tools, you don't want to have the Riptide or the Hammerhead, you don't want to use the manual vacuum hose, and you want something that's more portable and versatile. The bottom feeder fits that category. The VacDaddy fits that category to the extent that you have to plug it in, of course. So remember that, and sometimes the plugs are not right there at the pool side. And something you have to consider on your pool routes. So look at your pools and see how many have plugs that you can access. And of course, the bottom feeder does not need a plug to operate. So that's something that gives that a little edge over the VacDaddy. But I would say both would definitely come in handy out there. And really, in all reality, they're not really comparable machines, in my opinion. And you can't say one does this better than the other, because they're both technically different types of machines, in my opinion. Now, if you wanted to purchase the bottom feeder, the best way you can do that is to go to my website. I have a direct link to it, since they are one of my sponsors, and you can get $100 off with code DVB100, which is a great savings. They're also coming out with a lot of new innovative things for the bottom feeder, including a small portable version called the Shrimp, and the plug-in thing I mentioned is also something that they're coming out with. If you want to order the VacDaddy, also on my website, if you scroll down a little bit on the homepage, you'll see endorsed products. Click on the VacDaddy, click on the VacDaddy link once you get in there, and you can definitely get the VacDaddy from their site. They have 3 different bundles available, and I would recommend getting probably the middle bundle if you wanted to get just about everything, but you don't want the bag or the extra filter bags. The bag's pretty cool. So if you want to get of course, it's called the deluxe bundle, you can get that as well. So both of those are available kind of directly from my site, but I don't sell products. So the links are there on my site, swimmingpoollearning.com. Go there and you can click on either of those products to kind of look at them and just do your research and find out which one you think would be best for your use. And again, getting both would be ideal in my opinion. If you're wanting more podcast episodes to listen to, you can subscribe Monday through Friday on YouTube, and I drop one there every day, Monday through Friday. Also on my website, again, swimmingpoollearning.com, and the podcast icon. Click on that in the banner, and you'll have 1,700 podcasts to listen to there. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguidecoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.